Welcome to part two of our MPC basics tutorial. Now that we know, if you watch part one, the basic layout and functions of this machine, we can actually use that knowledge to make a beat. So we're going to sample some sound through analog inputs, which are back here where it says record in. And I have that hooked up to a iPad pretending to be a turntable because I don't have an actual physical turntable here. Now, you don't need a turntable to sample. You can use pretty much anything, any audio input. It could be a TV, your computer, MP3 player, your phone, the radio, anything. But, I come from an era of using turntables, and I think there are certain advantages to it. So, but I don't have a turntable handy, so I have this. But I actually have a song queued up that I want to sample for this demo. So let's go to mode record to take us to a sample recording screen. And here we have a couple of options. Let's look over those real quick. Stereo, that's self-explanatory. You could record only the input from the right channel or from the left channel. But we're gonna leave this at mono. Recording time, I usually set this to about a minute just in case. I never sample that much, but you want to have that option in case like it takes a while for your sample to kick in. And if you set this by default, this is set to 10 seconds. And so, for example, if you start recording and your 10 seconds is up, it'll stop recording, and maybe it didn't catch your sample. And you have to rewind. You have to delete the sample and go back and redo it. So I just make sure I set this to a minute so that it gives me enough time to record whatever data I want. Right? Okay, so threshold. Let's skip that for now. Well, basically, what that does is it's for sampling certain sounds like drums. That, for example, threshold means it will only start recording when you reach the threshold which you set in decibels. For example, anything that's below this level, when the input actually comes in, won't sample. So, well, this is useful for like drums and things like that, but we're gonna leave that alone for now. We don't actually need that for what we're doing. And monitor on. What this does is it actually monitors it. It plays back or lets you hear what's coming into the MPC, which we do want because we want to hear what we're sampling. In certain other instances, you wouldn't want that on, but right now we do. So let's hit record and let's hit play on our sample playback device. That's pretty cool, huh? Alright, you know what? That's enough. Now, let's put this away. Let's play back. This gives us the option to play it, to preview what we recorded. If we're not happy with it, we can hit retry, and this is erases what we just did. It takes us back to the previous screen. But I know from hearing it that I got the sound, the portion that I want. So I'm gonna hit a pad that I want to assign this to right from here. Boom. You see this says assign to pad A13. That's sound bank A from these A, B, C, and D, pad 13. And I'm gonna press keep. From here, what I want is I'm gonna go mode trim, and this takes me to my sample screen. Now it got recorded a little bit low, so which has to do with the gain. Let's just go over that real quick. So let's see here. So that's our sound. So for example, this controls how loud the input signal is, or it amplifies it. So you kind of want this right around this area, because if it's too low, then it'll play, the playback will be low. Some technical difficulties there, but anyway, yeah, you want this kind of. If it's just too loud, it will clip. So you don't want it all the way up like that, because what will happen then is the audio will get distorted. Ooh, that's hot. And if it's too low, then it'll come out like this, which is not too bad. But we actually have a remedy for that as well. what we're going to do here is hit, first of all, we're going to hit edit, and we're going to scroll down to normalize. We're going to hit do it. So that's going to basically boost our sample a little high. It's going to turn it up a little. So there's that. All right, so we're pretty good. So let's go ahead and edit it. So here you're presented with start point and end point. Let's go to start point, and using our scroll wheel, we're going to adjust the start point. You could preview it by pressing any one of these pads, and this will play the loop. So it'll loop basically whatever you have selected. So if we go to endpoint, say if you select, if you want to, for example, if you're sampling a perfect loop and you want to hear how it sounds, you just press this pad or you hold it down. So you could see that I had a little extra chunk there that wouldn't make it, would not loop quite right. So there sounds like a pretty good 2-bar loop. Cuts off slightly early. See, I could zoom in using these two keys, so I could get in a little closer and do a better edit. So that sounds okay. Alright, so that's cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit edit, and what I'm gonna do is actually discard is the first option that you're presented with, which means what that will do is it'll take your selection and delete everything outside of your selection and just leave you with the portion that's selected here. Well, we don't want that, because we want to have the option to go back to the original sample and cut other parts out, or say if we made a mistake and we cut off too much, we want to be able to go back and make adjustments. So the next option is extract, which will create a new sample from your selection and leave the original sample intact. So we're going to do that. We're going to hit do it, and there it is. There's our new sample 2, which that's what the MPC will by default assign a name like that. So now I'm happy with that one. So let's go back, and there was another sample in here that I wanted. So I'm gonna go towards the back of the sample and see if there it is. Let's zoom in. Zoom in some more. So with these, this, as it says, this pad when held down, it'll play from the selection, from the end of the selection. This will play to the beginning of the selection. So this will play this is the whole sample from here to the selection. This will play the whole sample. See, and this will play the loop. It'll loop the selection, and the rest of these will just play your selection and stop. There you go. So I'm gonna hit edit, extract, because we want to keep the original sample. And now we're gonna go to mode program. And here we're gonna assign our samples. So sample 2 is gonna go here. And I'd like to put sample 3 here. You know what I decided? I only want to keep one repetition of that guitar part. That just makes it easier for me. So I'm actually not going to cut that off. There's no reason to. I'm just going to leave it as is. And let's go to mode program and adjust a few more settings. So I think it's a little too slow for what the beat I want to make. So I'm going to go to tune, which what this does is is it lets me tune the sample up and down chromatically by half steps. So, but the first thing I'm going to do is go to parameters and set the voice overlap to mono, which basically, if this is set to poly, which it is by default, which kind of works best for drums, I guess. What it'll do is it'll overlap itself if I try to like play it. It'll sound like that. Just a mess unless you're going for some kind of effect that requires that. But when you set it to mono, it'll actually mute the previous. It'll just kind of mute itself out as it overlaps. And I'm going to do the same thing for this sample. Cool. So, now go back to sample, and I'm going to... So this will basically let you tune the sample up and down by 3 octaves. So I'm going to tune this up by 1. It gives me a tempo that I kind of like. So let's put our tap tempo to work, because I have a feeling this tempo is right around 80 BPMs, but I don't, let's use the tap tempo to set our BPM here. So we're gonna hit the sample and we're gonna tap this 4 times, and it'll set the tempo. We're gonna basically tap this to the beat. Okay, so let's set it to right around 79.8. So right around 80. I like even numbers, so I'm gonna set that to 80. And let's set our bars length of our loop to 4. Because what I want to do is I want to have this first section play 3 times and then have this as the end piece. So let's go to mode, load, and actually load up some drums. So I have this folder here called beat tools, which I sometimes refer to for, just basic drums. There's a kick, sort of boom bappy. I kind of like that snare. Let's add that. So what I'm doing here is I'm previewing it, and when I press do it, I hit a pad that I want to assign that sound to, and I hit yes. And there you go. When you go back to the main screen, alright, so let's try to record this loop. So we're on track 1. I'm going to set our time correct to 16th note, which is will work pretty well. And yeah, let's do this. Let's wait for our 4 count, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And when it gets to the end of our 4 bars, it'll start from the beginning again. It'll loop it. So let's go to track 2 and record some hi-hats. Okay, let's go to track 3 and alright, I kind of like that. So we can use our solo and mute buttons to solo parts out as we perform. For example, if we want the song to start, we kind of want to plot out our sequence. we want it to start with just the guitar part, right? Might want to do solo, just the first track, and then let the beat drop, you know, after 4 bars. I feel like my hi-hat is a little too loud, so I'm going to go back to mode program, and I'm going to go to level and adjust that. Also not crazy about that kick, so I'm going to actually go back to mode load and see if I can find another kick. Let's try that. Do it. Go back to that same pad, and there it is. Actually, I like this one. Let's do that. And while we're at it, let's try a different snare. Why not? Go back to main, hit play, and those sounds are already loaded to here. Now, if I want to hear how 16 note hi-hat pattern would sound, I could just hold this note repeat button and hold the pad. Also vary the velocity by turning this full level off. And just alright, let's say I like that, and I'd like to record over my original hi-hat pattern, so I could just go right over that. Now what I'm doing here is I'm varying the pressure as I'm. So what that does is it triggers the velocity at higher and lower levels. And let's add a little drum roll in there just to make it a little more fun. We'll set our timing correct at 1/32, and let's mess around with the drums. Okay, let's add a little drum roll. Okay. Nothing too crazy, but a basic beat. Alright, so last thing I want to do, say if we're happy with this, is we're going to go to mode, save, and we're going to make sure that where it's under save, we're saving the entire memory. And here we're going to navigate out of this beat tools folder that we were previously in by hitting this up arrow, so which takes us back to our main memory card, our root folder. We're going to hit the new button. I'm going to give this a name. Oops, it named it for me, but we're just going to go back and rename. And we're going to name this, let's name it Japan, just to stay with the theme. Japan, here we go. And we don't need none of that. Japan with an exclamation mark. That's cool. All right, and we're going to copy that because what I want to do is name my folder the same. I mean, name my project the same as my folder. So I'm going to copy that text, and I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to make sure I'm in that folder, and I'm going to navigate back to that. Hit do it. I'm going to click this once, so let me rename it. I'm going to press paste to name it that. Japan with my 2 exclamation points. I'm going to hit enter, do it, and there we have it. Wait for it to save. and we're good to go. Now it's safe to turn off the MPC, and when we turn it back on, if we did the above steps correctly, our folder should be saved on our memory card. So we'll go to memory load, and we'll navigate to a folder called Japan. And there it is. So I could just load this right back up. And there it is. Peace.